My name is Virginia Brown. I'm an occupational therapist and the owner of the Bioelectric Shield Company. For the past 31 years, we have specialized in providing people with personal energy protection, be it from EMF radiation or even other people's energy. It's a pleasure to be here. Our topic today is technology causing brain and other mysterious symptoms is one that has been on my mind for many years. Technology is wonderful. I love being able to text a friend and meet them in 10 minutes. It's great, but it does have a downside. It's called electromagnetic radiation. Our technology has brought tremendous convenience. Our devices help us communicate with family and friends instantly. That's the power of texting. However, the one thing that they all have in common, these devices, is that they all produce electromagnetic radiation, or EMFs. It is the contention of many scientists and doctors that EMFs are causing a variety of physical, mental, and emotional problems, which may show up for people as mysterious symptoms, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. In this talk, I'm referring to technology as EMF. I'll define EMF radiation for you, where it comes from, review mysterious symptoms that you or somebody you might know have, and then briefly review the known research effects. Last and most important, I'm going to give you 10 tips to reduce EMF exposure. So what is EMF radiation anyway? Well, EMF comes from absolutely everything that plugs in, has a battery, a display, or sends out a signal. That is a lot of EMF. EMF is produced by electronic devices like cell phones, tablets, laptops, cordless phones, and computers. It also comes from things that you may not have considered, like smart appliances, smart TVs, smart meters, cell towers, 5G towers, LED lights, baby monitors, Wi-Fi monitors, Alexa, security systems, Bluetooth for your phone or in your car, microwaves, hair dryers, fans, washing machines, heaters, all your small appliances, radios, clocks, your refrigerator, hybrid and electric cars, your watch, and especially your iWatch or Fitbit. Even the wiring in your home and office puts out EMF radiation. Why is it called EMF radiation? It's because electromagnetic radiation consists of waves of electric and magnetic energy moving together through space. They are always paired. So if you look at this picture, you'll see that there are blue lines that are the electric current, and then the red lines are the magnetic aspect of that. They are always paired. That's why they call it electromagnetic energy. Since these waves are invisible, the only way you know you're being affected is if you start to feel strange around some sources of EMF radiation. It might happen that you would go and be in an environment where the Wi-Fi was really intense and you would leave with a headache and not know why. What is our frequency? Humans have a frequency of about 7.8 cycles per second, or 7.83 hertz, which is the same frequency as the Earth. This frequency is known as the Schumann resonance. When you go for a walk in the woods, you'll feel great. You feel this earth energy as really soothing and nurturing. I chose this picture because it's an idyllic situation where you're walking through the woods and you just feel calm and you feel the energy from the trees. A lot of times if you go for a walk by the ocean, it's the same kind of experience. Now this chart shows you the differences in our frequencies. There's our human frequency, which is super slow, about 8 cycles, and then the Earth, which is also slow, is represented on the left side of this chart where it says it starts at 0 hertz. So if you look at the chart, you'll see that we're not represented there, the humans and the Earth, but we're only at 8 hertz. And then as you move to the right, you'll see that there is the alternating electric and magnetic fields from power lines and from hair dryers. Keep moving to the right, and by the time you get to the TV, 3 kilohertz means 3,000 cycles per second. That's already hugely faster than humans. As we move up to mobile phones and microwaves, you can see the frequency is getting faster. 5G isn't on this chart, but it would vibrate in the microwave and satellite frequency range. Many concerned scientists warn that being exposed to these higher frequencies is the key to mysterious symptoms. So let's take a look at two technologies that we constantly use. The first one, the cell phone. Would you care to guess the frequency of her phone? Keeping in mind we're at 7.8 cycles per second. Here we go. Depending on your phone, the frequency is anywhere from 800 megahertz or 800 million cycles per second to 2600 million cycles per second. That is hugely different. This is why we're recommending that you don't ever hold a phone up to your head. After all, remember, the frequency is 7.8 cycles per second, and this is in the millions. If you put this in miles per hour, it kind of gives you a good perspective. If we're moving along at our sedate 8 miles an hour, and then we put a phone up to our head that's like millions of miles per hour, can you imagine how the brain is reacting to that? For those of you who are mothers, there is a caution in letting your kids hold a phone up to their head. Children have skulls that are softer than adults, and the radiation can penetrate far more easily into the brain of the child than the adult brain. If there is a protective EMF blocker case on your phone, then your kids can talk safely into a speakerphone as long as that phone is in that protective case. Wi-Fi routers, pretty much everywhere. We've got them in our homes, and they're certainly in all kinds of businesses, hospitals, educational institutions, pretty much everywhere. Wi-Fi routers can cause immediate health issues for some people. Your Wi-Fi is either 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. This means the waves coming through your home are traveling at about 2.4 billion cycles per second. If you're sitting at Starbucks having a cup of coffee or tea, you're still getting billions of cycles per second of the waves from the Wi-Fi routers that allow you to, use your phone to text your friend and say, hey, I'm here, where are you? It's a wonder that we can get up and walk out of the Starbucks once we've had our drink. Before we dive into how EMF can affect the body, let's explore mysterious symptoms that you or someone you know might have experienced, or they're experiencing it right now. Where do mysterious symptoms come from? I'm going to show you 4 slides. Your job is just to jot down if you've had any of these symptoms. After the talk, ask yourself, do you have symptoms that have crept into your life in, say, the last couple of years? Or happened after some event, like maybe a 5G tower being placed in the neighborhood, or a smart meter being placed on your home? Or maybe your telephone or internet came by and said, hey, we've got a really great new Wi-Fi router for you. You're going to love it. It's really fast and powerful. And what they're not mentioning is that it's also putting out more electromagnetic radiation. There's a website that is on your screen, and the .com part is missing. So it's www.antennasearch.com. So if you go there, you'll be able to put in your address, and you'll find out how many cell towers are in your immediate vicinity. If you're getting a new phone or any other kind of technology, it would be kind of good to know how powerful that phone is. Some phones put out more radiation than others, and often you can go on the internet and find out the least radiation producing phones. So here we go with the symptoms. Sleep issues. Do you have insomnia, or do you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep? Tinnitus, ringing in the ears, is also something that some people have reported to us that they've gotten after smart meters have been put on their home. Depression, mood swings. You're angry or apathetic, you're not really sure why. Exhaustion, adrenal fatigue. I'm going to pause for a minute and tell you about a landmark study that was done in Rimbach, Bavaria. This was a very unusual town because no cell tower had ever been put in this valley of Rimbach. And so that meant that researchers could do pre- and post-tests with certain specific hormones. Adrenaline, noradrenaline, and phenylalanine and dopamine were the 4 hormones that they tested. Without going into all the details, after 6 months, the the adrenaline levels, which had gone up significantly initially because the body was fighting off this new foreign invader called EMF radiation from a cell tower. Well, the adrenals worked and worked and worked, and then finally they actually went into complete and total exhaustion because they could not keep up with the radiation. And then the dopamine levels went down because they're also responsible for providing a little bit of adrenaline, and they went up for a little while, but then they couldn't keep up, and the whole situation produced some very interesting symptoms, which included sleep problems, focusing problems, increased allergy, and just not feeling very well. So this was quite an amazing study because this was one of the few places in the world where there hadn't been any kind of cell phone tower. So another symptom would be foggy brain and memory issues, poor focus, leading to maybe even ADD, ADHD. Common from individuals who have contacted us would be fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, anxiety, panic attacks, and heart palpitations. These are just things that can happen when someone is overwhelmed by either a life situation or possibly EMF radiation. This is what the research has found. Headaches, mysterious physical symptoms, high blood pressure, anxiety. Now, as it happens, these symptoms that I've gone over with you are all associated with electromagnetic radiation. We call them mysterious symptoms simply because people do not typically associate any of these symptoms with Wi-Fi or smartphones or any kind of technology. But technology has made a steady creep into our lives. In fact, the World Health Organization accepted a diagnostic category called electromagnetic hypersensitivity a couple of years ago, and it's now a medical diagnosis that was recently added to the International Diagnostic Medical Codes that doctors use and that insurance companies use for reimbursement. This was a huge moment because so many of the people that had suffered from electromagnetic sensitivity had gone to doctors and they had kind of looked at them like maybe they had some sort of emotional problem or they needed some sort of medication that you would get from, your psychiatrist. And in fact, it was a purely physical response to electromagnetic radiation. The most famous and definitive study available to the public is called the Bioinitiative Report. In 2012, and then updated for probably 4 different times up to 2020, 29 authors from 10 countries reviewed approximately 2,000 studies relating to EMF radiation. So this is a huge database. The reviewers included 10 medical doctors, 21 PhDs, and 3 master's degrees reviewers. It was a comprehensive review of the scientific literature of EMFs and health. And they found that there was compelling evidence that EMFs can cause health problems. Bioeffects are clearly established to occur with very low exposure levels to electromagnetic fields and radio frequency exposures. The report concluded that there is strong evidence that EMFs can cause a wide range of adverse health effects, including cancer, reproductive problems, and neurological damage. Before this talk, I reviewed the latest findings from 2020. The issues are all reported after groups of studies in the same area are examined, often upward to 300 studies and beyond. So what I'm trying to say here is that when they were looking at studies, there could be 200 or 300 or 400 studies in just one area. And so the list that I have here is based on a lot of different studies. So first of all, we have something that is, to me, tragic: birth defects and genetic problems, abnormal gene transcription, and of course, it's related sometimes to electromagnetic radiation. Oxidative stress, we'll be talking a little bit about that more later, but this is when the cells get stressed by EMF. DNA damage, genotoxicity, and double-strand DNA damage. DNA repair issues. If you can't repair the DNA, then your DNA is going to keep replicating in its damaged state, and this can lead to cancer and other serious health conditions. Cell nutrition can be affected, which leads to a lot of health problems. There are such a thing as heat shock proteins or stress proteins that are caused by EMF exposure. And what happens is that the cell wall hardens, which keeps out nutrition and also will not let the cell release toxins. But the reason it does that is because it's being attacked. So this is a similar response to the Bavaria study where we talked about the hormones going into high gear with adrenaline and noradrenaline and then fading out because they couldn't keep going. Reduced immune functioning will be a reduction of free radical scavengers, and so you just have more difficulty fighting off problems, the flu, colds, so on and so forth. Here's another list that we're probably familiar with: autoimmune diseases, arthritis, Lyme, Epstein-Barr. They have occurred in increasing frequency over the decades. Other issues, cancer, infertility, have been linked with EMF radiation numerous times as one of the contributing factors. In fact, you've probably heard that men are not supposed to put their phones in their front pockets because that's close to the testicles, and the EMF radiation can cause true disturbances in the sperm integrity. The large majority of the studies from the Bioinitiative report show biological effects, which include the free radical damage, genetic and neurological studies, and electro-hypersensitivity. In other words, more people are being impacted in their daily lives by EMF radiation. And because nearly all the damage is invisible, since it's happening inside our bodies, we only know that maybe we don't feel very well. Something is off. I can personally report that when I first started working as a pediatric OT in the school systems in the late 1970s, I was working in a large school district in the Boston suburbs, and of the maybe 39 or 40 schools in that district, there was one classroom that had 6 autistic kids in it. That was my caseload. I had never worked with them before, and so it was just starting to show up in the public schools. The most recent statistics from 2021 state that 1 in 44 children have ASD, or autism spectrum disorder. Just a couple of years ago, it was 1 in 54 children. Is this related to EMF exposure? I don't know. But what I do think is interesting is that the rate has gone up as EMF radiation exposure has increased in our environment. So let's talk about emotional stress: fear, anxiety, indecision, anger, depression, loss of enthusiasm. So one wouldn't think that EMF radiation could have a whole lot to do with this, but let's think about this for a minute, because if your immune system is working overtime and it can't keep up with the radiation that is coming, that is causing all kinds of cellular damage, then the body starts getting really worn out, very, very fatigued, and you can have these kinds of stress reactions that show up as emotional reactions. And so we can't really rule out that EMF radiation does not have anything to do with these different emotional stress points. In 2020, updated results from the Bioinitiative report confirmed that EMF radiation is one of the triggers for free radical production. They actually found 263 studies that confirm this. This particular slide is from a Canadian researcher who calculated physiological stress in cells when a person was exposed to EMF via cell towers, Wi-Fi, wireless laptops, and smart meters. So let's talk about what physiological stress means anyway. So what it means is that your cells are being affected by too many free radicals in your body. So what's a free radical? A free radical is missing an oxygen molecule. So what they do is they're thieves. They actually go and they search out healthy cells and they steal their oxygen molecule. They do have a very short lifespan, but during that time, the stealing process can damage the molecule that they stole and damage the DNA in that cell, which then, of course, leads to DNA problems, and that can lead to various diseases, including heart disease and cancer. So that's what physiological or oxidative stress means. The fact that there's been a 30% increase since 2008 is just something to note. So now that you've heard kind of a lot of bad news, we're going to focus on some solutions for reducing our EMF exposure. We're going to review 10 tips for removing EMFs from your home and office. Most of these tips cost nothing except a change in a habit or your logistics. After the tips, I'm going to share with you the secret of what 31 years of providing EMF protection has shown to be the most effective approach. So tip number 1, partner with nature. Rise with the sun and go to bed early. This is how you make maximum use of daylight and can avoid using artificial lightings, whenever possible. Of course, it's easier to do that in our summer months, but still, if you can go outside once the sun is up for just 10 minutes in the morning, particularly if the sun is shining, but even if it's not, this does amazing things. It wakes up your brain, it wakes up your hormones, and it wakes up your entire body. If you step outside for just a few hours after being inside, then your energy field has a chance to expand and cleanse from electronic energies, particularly, I'm assuming that you've been, sitting in front of a screen. You might even schedule a once a day time on your phone to go outside. If you have a dog, you can take your dog for a walk. He or she would probably be very happy about this new schedule. And even if you don't have a dog, you can take yourself for a walk. It does a lot more than just get you outside. Very healing for the body. This second one, get better sleep, is huge. There are so many people that are experiencing sleep problems. We hear from many of them when they call. If you're experiencing sleep issues, you might be reacting to too much EMF in your bedroom. Several studies have been correlated higher levels of EMF radiation with poor sleep. So this is even outside the bedroom. So here's a couple of studies. In 2010 and 2012, two similar studies found that employees of high voltage substations needed more time to fall asleep and that their sleep quality was worse than the control group. Another study from PubMed found that melatonin levels are disrupted by EMF radiation. Melatonin is a hormone that your brain produces in response to darkness. It then signals the pineal gland, which controls your sleep-wake cycles. So, what can you specifically do right now to help get better sleep? Let's start with your bedroom. Purge your bedroom of electronics. If you need an alarm clock, I would suggest that you just go buy, a plug-in alarm clock and keep it about 5 feet from your bed, and then remove cell phones, laptops, tablets, all that from your bedroom. If you're exceptionally sensitive, you can unplug a bedside lamp, but most people don't have to do that. You could also use an EMF block or bioelectric shield that reduces EMF in any space. Now let's go ahead and talk about what happens before you get into bed. The activities that you do in the evening actually can make a huge difference on how well you sleep. Many people use e-readers now for books. They use blue light that's coming from our screens, from our phones, from our tablets, notebooks, etc. So blue light is stimulating because it is mimicking natural sunlight in the sense that when you go outside, the blue light is the part of the spectrum that you're going to see. That's why they call it full spectrum lights. They're adding in the blue. So you can either stop reading for 2 hours before bedtime, or there are some things that you can do with your device. First of all, you can wear blue blocker glasses, and then most tablets now have a very easy to find setting for letting your screen naturally darken as the evening gets later and later. So by doing that and by using the blue blocker glasses, you're assisting that pineal gland so that it knows to tell your body, hey, it's time for sleep. And by the way, a lot of people have put their cell phones, especially teenagers put their cell phones under their pillow at night, that they might have a text that they have to respond to at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, hopefully you don't let your teenagers do this, because this is like the worst, that they're getting radiated all night long, and the dings and anything that's notifying them that they're getting some significant text would certainly be very difficult for the brain to handle. Lastly, you may have tried taking melatonin supplements to help you sleep better, and that's perfectly fine, but maybe if you change some of the ways that you handle the evening and keep the electronics out of the bedroom, you might not actually need those supplements. Tip number 4, control your Wi-Fi. You know, turning off your Wi-Fi at night is actually pretty easy because you can do it automatically. The way that we advise is that you go get an electronic plug-in timer, like what you'd put on a lamp if you were going away on a vacation, so the lamp turns on and on at specific times. So you go to Home Depot or wherever and you get the plug-in timer, and so you plug that into where your Wi-Fi unit is, your router right now, and so you plug that in and then you plug your Wi-Fi into the timer. You set the timer so that it goes off at 10 or 11 or whatever the bedtime is in your home, and then you set it to turn on in the morning. The only caveat I will mention is that when you have a power outage, you do have to go and reset your timer. If you're extremely sensitive, you can hardwire your electronics instead of using a Wi-Fi router, and that's what some people actually have to do. Something else that you can do with your Wi-Fi router, which is just really great, is to use an anti-radiation spray. That spray will eliminate 99% of the EMF radiation from the router. This is particularly useful if you have a situation where you feel like you have to keep your router on all night. And so you will spray this anti-radiation spray on the box, and then for the back wires you spray it on some cheesecloth and just lay the cheesecloth over the back, and then you've effectively put a EMF sort of protective cage around that router. And then just for more resources, if you go to our website, this is particularly for parents, there is a parent's guide for protecting your children from EMF and Wi-Fi. So you can check that out. There's a lot of suggestions in there as well. Tip number 5 actually is use airplane mode. So it's easy to do airplane mode when you do not require a Wi-Fi connection. This reduces the EMF on your phone or your tablet. So I guess we did tip number 4 twice. So tip number 5 is keep your immune system strong. You can choose a nutrient-rich diet, possibly organic, 7-8 hours of sleep, moderate exercise, plenty of fresh air and sun, taking those walks. We don't need to tell you too much about that, but that's something that you can find lots of suggestions about keeping your immune system strong. Also, being in a mood of gratitude a lot seems to do a lot to boost people's immune system. Tip 6, replace EMF-producing lighting. Replace dimmer switches with regular switches. This will eliminate high-frequency radiation or dirty electricity, which can be hidden in a dimmer switch. Now, that spray that I was talking about could actually be something that you could use with a dimmer switch. You would want to turn your power off first. Obviously, open up the plate, get to the dimmer switch, and then you can lightly wipe down that whole switch apparatus, which will stop the EMF radiation from coming out on that dimmer switch. Put your plate back on, turn your power back on, and you can keep the lighting in your dining room or wherever you have a dimmer that works out really well to stop the radiation. Avoid low voltage halogen and fluorescent lightings, including the ever popular, actually it's been pretty recent that we've seen these compact fluorescent lightings that are being advertised as like energy saving, and I'm sure they are energy saving, but the problem is that fluorescent lighting has been shown to cause migraines and contains mercury, which is a hazardous material that of course you don't want to dump in our landfills. Now, the light that you're seeing on the screen is actually from a company that produces UV-free full spectrum lighting solutions. There are 2 companies that do this. The first one that you're looking at right now is called Verilux, V-E-R-I-L-U-X, and then the other company, which is also quite excellent, is OTT Technology. They've been around even longer than Verilux. If you do get depressed during the months when it's cloudy, you may have seasonal affective depression, and these lights from Verilux called Happy Lights can really be a sunlight substitute for you. I have a couple of them in our home, and they are great for helping you with sleep, low energy, lack of focus, and also depression. And most people do use LCD computers and TV screens, but you do want to avoid plasma TVs. Tip number 7, practice safe cell phone use. So you're looking at a picture right now that I want to talk with you about because it's from the Spanish Neurological Institute. And remember when I said that children's brains are softer, their skulls are softer than the adult brain. And so this is a very interesting photo that's fairly famous because when people were trying to, some doctors were trying to prove that EMF radiation from cell phones could potentially be quite dangerous, particularly for children, they had some pretty strong proof. So if you look at this slide, you'll see that the radiation from the cell phone that they were able to photograph using resonance imaging in a 5-year-old goes probably 60 or more % into the brain. With a 10-year-old, their skull is a little bit harder, and so you're at least 50%. And even with adults, it's probably about 25%. So again, this is why you do not want to hold your phone up to your head. If you put it in an anti-radiation pouch and then use your speakerphone, or you can also use a radiation-free earbuds if you want to have your call be private, as long as you just keep putting that phone back in that pouch. When you're not using your phone, just try to keep it a couple feet away from you. We do have an Ultimate Cell Phone Safety Tips article on our website, so if you just type in Ultimate Cell Phone Safety Tips, you will be taken directly to that article. So opt out of smart meters if you possibly can. If you can, try to get it removed and go back to an analog meter. They are going to charge you a monthly fee, but this is something that we prevented from happening in our home. We just said, do not put a smart meter on our house. And fortunately, we were there when they wanted to do that. And so we do pay a monthly fee. But if you can't remove the smart meter, you can place a bioelectric shield, room shield on the inside wall, and that will break up the radiation from the smart meter. But there's also another smaller kind of anti-radiation picture frame liner that you put inside any picture that you have, and then you place that directly on your inside wall, obviously, directly across from your smart meter. You can also, by the way, call up your doctor and ask them to write a letter for you for the power company, because that's what a lot of people have done that we know about, and they have been successful in getting their meters removed. Tip number 9, reduce dirty electricity in your home. So I want to talk to you about what happens when power comes into your home. You know, one would think that you'd have this steady stream of power from your power pole that looks like water, and it would be a nice steady flow. But that is not exactly what happens. Instead, there are surges of power that can harm your electronics, but worse than that, they really increase the electromagnetic radiation from those spikes. So if you recall the diagram with the blue waveform, the electric part, and then the red waveform, the magnetic part, when that blue wave gets really big, so does the red wave, the magnetic part. So that's what we say when we refer to dirty electricity. That means that that spike has caused a huge spike in the electromagnetic radiation coming out of your walls into your home. So on the left, you can see that there's this funny looking sort of box with a conduit on the top, and the reason why that's there is that that can be installed before your breaker box so that the power from the power pole comes in, goes into that unit, and then it delivers clean electricity to your breaker box, which is great because that's sending clean electricity all throughout the walls of your house. The item on the right is a plug-in unit, and if you have a house less than 1,600 square feet or you don't own the home, then this is a great solution. You can put a couple of those filters, one on the A circuits, the other on the B circuits in your home. Every home has both A and B circuits, and so you go to your breaker panel, you figure out which room has an A circuit, which room has a B, and then you just put these plugs in. And every time the electricity goes through there, if it happens to be dirty electricity, these will flatten those spikes and return the electricity to clean as it continues to circulate around your house. We do have the whole home unit, and I'll just tell you a little story. When we got that unit, the company was going to carry it, so I thought, well, I'll just try it. Sounds like a good idea. And the next morning, I said to my husband, do you notice anything different about how our house, do you notice anything? And so he said, well, actually I do. It feels sort of more natural in here. It feels calmer and nicer. And I said, that is great. That's exactly what I feel too. But I just thought maybe I was imagining that, because they say that, your environment will just feel better if you don't have dirty electricity all over the place. So that was just our reaction to it, and people seem to really like them a lot. The other place that we have put a little plug-in device, because you can put them anywhere, is in addition to the home unit, we put one in the power outlet next to the home theater, which has the TV and the DVD and all that. There's a lot of electromagnetic radiation coming out of all those kinds of electronics, and so we just thought that would be a good place for it. And the other thing that it does is that it preserves the electronics so that they don't break down as quickly, because they're getting clean electricity delivered, and many of those components are quite sensitive. Tip number 10, get personal energy protection. As an occupational therapist, my motto has always been to try to help people live their dreams and not be hampered by physical or emotional challenges. When I was working as an OT, that meant therapies or adaptive equipment, but with electromagnetic radiation, it's pretty different. For the first 22 years of my career, I worked with children with both physical and learning challenges, including blindness, ADD, ADHD, and autism. And when I transitioned in 1988 to working with Dr. Brown and discovered that EMF radiation could be as debilitating as some of the traditional issues I'd been trained to help, I was kind of stunned. I mean, these problems were just as serious as the ones that I had heard about in OT school. So in 1991, I started the Bioelectric Shield Company. Over the past 31 years, my team and I have learned that personal energy protection, be it from EMF or even from other people's energy, can really transform a person's life. We've observed that people who are highly sensitive to energy from others are usually highly reactive to electromagnetic radiation. But those people don't usually think about it that way. They think, well, I'm just sensitive to this person. I don't like being around them. And a lot of those people are called highly sensitive persons, or empaths. The business manager for our company, Anna Mariah, is an empath, and she's actually also giving a talk that is for empaths and how you deal with that kind of sensitivity. But at any rate, what we found is that people who are sensitive to other people's energy are often sensitive to EMF, but they just don't usually know that. Most people assume that there must be some logical cause, or they just had a bad conversation with someone, or it was diet or stress. But what if these reactions are just purely physical? So we've also learned that it's best to layer your energy protection. Our strongest suggestion is to get full body protection by wearing an energy protection pendant, be it around your neck, on your wrist, in a pocket, or on a belt pouch. After we learn about personal protection, which we're going to cover in a minute, we're going to cover protection for our electronic devices and for your work and living space. So for the next 3 minutes, you're going to be entertained, hopefully, by an animated video that summarizes how personal energy protection could help you both with your mysterious symptoms and with your life in general. After that, we'll, as I said, go into the other types of EMF protection for electronics and work and living spaces.
We're constantly surrounded by radiation from electromagnetic frequencies, also called EMF. EMF comes from our phones, our homes, and our offices. EMF disrupts your natural frequencies, which impacts your nerve and cellular functions. This can leave you feeling unfocused, anxious, and ultimately drained. So how can you protect yourself while swimming in a sea of EMF radiation? Meet the bioelectric shield. The bioelectric shield uses Nobel Prize-winning physics, including a crystal matrix that acts as an energy regulator for your body, blocking, deflecting, and neutralizing the impact of EMF radiation. The metal that surrounds the crystal matrix serves as an amplifier for the energy protection effects the shield provides. Each metal amplifies differently. Brass is good, silver is better, gold is best. The first time you begin wearing your shield, it goes into resonance with your unique energy frequency within 24 hours. The shield stabilizes your energy while deflecting draining energy away from you, be it from EMF, other people's energy, or stressful situations. How can you select the best shield for your unique energy? Because EMF impacts everyone differently. We developed 4 levels of protection based on your EMF exposure, your sensitivity to EMF, or sensitivity to other people's energy. Level 1, low. Level 2, moderate. Level 3, high. Level 4, very high. Want to make things easy? Take the quiz on our website to get your personalized recommendation. We found that some customers buy a lower level shield because of their budget. For this reason, we created the upgrade program. Just contact us within 3 years of your original purchase to upgrade your shield. Since 1990, we've helped over 200,000 people reclaim their lives and thrive in a tech-driven world. Our customers have called the bioelectric shield a game changer. Instead of feeling unfocused, anxious, and drained, how would you like to feel protected, balanced, and energized? You have nothing to risk and everything to gain with our 90-day, no questions asked refund policy. Are you ready to experience the most powerful personal energy protection on the planet? Choose your shield and get protected today.
Now that you've seen the video, you know the big picture of how the bioelectric shield works. When I was an occupational therapist, I worked, as I mentioned, with kids with sensory processing disorders, and that of course included ADD, ADHD, and autism. I wanted to see, once this company had been going for a while, if we could do something to add to the matrix that was already going to protect people and balance their energy, to see if I could help some of these kids, especially the ADD and ADHD kids, to focus better. And in fact, we did come up with a matrix called our focusing matrix, which is helping people, both children and adults, focus a lot better on their lives. What we've found is that with the increasing use of devices, people's attention span seems to be scattered, unbelievably so. And the devices are training our brains to want to have immediate and changing stimulation all the time. So these focusing matrices are very helpful to help people sort of stay on track. The other area was autism, and we worked with another consultant who helped design 2 different shields, one for mild and one for moderate to severe autism, to help these children make more sense of their environment. So many children that have learning problems and ASD are just overwhelmed by their environment, and often they take drugs like Ritalin, and our hope was that we could either lessen those doses or maybe completely eliminate them. So those are matrices that I just wanted to point out that we have available. So we also have auto and room shields, which will just be very helpful if you have a specific room like the bedroom or a media room where you want to clear the energy. The other great place for the room shield, we just changed its name, it's really the same shield, is in your auto, because so many of them have so many electronics and of course the Bluetooth. So those are ways to reduce EMF in your different environments. The typical comments that we get from shield wearers are, my energy is back to normal, even though I'm surrounded by Wi-Fi, computers, and mobile phones. That's a direct quote. I'm much less stressed and happier. My focus and thinking are better. I'm not affected by other people's energy and moods now that I'm wearing a shield. Life seems easier and flows better. The shield helped me so much. I got them for my kids. That's not on your screen, but that was a comment that we got from a parent. They became so attached to their pendants quite fast, and they now say that school is easier, especially my son, who is wearing the silver ADD shield in a belt pouch. You can shield your electronics, and we won't go into great detail about that now, but there are a variety of protection items. I've mentioned the cell phone pouch, the earbuds. You can place an EMF blocker under your tablet or notebook so that that radiation isn't going down into your pelvis while you're working on the computer. That's kind of a great idea. You can spray all the screens in your home, your TV, your computer screens, your router. All that will reduce the EMF radiation. You can turn your clothing into EMF blocking fabric, which is pretty exciting. And then you can do shielding for spaces. So I've mentioned the autos, but for your office, there are room shields, and there are a variety of other items, including even an EMF paint additive where you can paint either one wall or do all the inside walls of your house and spray the windows and make your entire house EMF protected. And if you have extreme problems, or your partner does, then that is an option. So really what I'd invite you to do is just to call us or email us, visit the website to look at those things. And lastly, would like to just wind up by talking to you a little bit about the research that we've gathered since 2016. We've gathered statistical data with the Highly Sensitive Person quiz and can report to you that 52% of the people that take that quiz, 52%, that is super high, experience mysterious symptoms, and as well as some of the other ones like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and the focusing issues that I've mentioned. Others talk about just feeling off balance and out of sorts. So we really think that there's a lot of people out there who are reacting to electromagnetic radiation. They're highly sensitive to this energy, and it's something that you can do something about. EMF is not really a cause that leaps to mind, but hopefully in this talk you have seen that there's a lot of connections here. So what we would recommend is that you take our quizzes, one or both of them. They're completely free. And if you'd like, you can go and listen to Anna Maria Now's talk. Well, she'll be talking about highly sensitive people, how to cope with that, and some solutions for that. The link obviously is bioelectricshield.com/quiz. And that concludes my presentation to you. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us. You can call us, you can email us, you can visit our website, take the quiz, anything that works for you. As you know, we've been problem solving for 31 years, and we just love helping people get the correct EMF protection. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. And of course, I love helping parents figure out how to best to support their children. And we'll work with, of course, anyone who's interested in minimizing their exposure to EMF radiation and then having a more enjoyable life. Thanks.